Hi, everyone, and welcome to. We're back again to the Neil Haley Show on the Caregiver Dave Celebrity segment, and I'm excited to welcome to the program Caregiver Dave Nasani. Dave, how are
Hey,
you? I know
I'm
you're
awesome.
excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. We got Jeannie Seely here from Classic Country. She's an American singer, songwriter, record producer. She also had several acting credits, published several songs, and Grammy Award. Don't Touch Me. And just welcome to the show, Jeannie.
Thank you so much.
Good to have you
I
on.
did all that. It
You
just
Yeah,
did.
yeah. And so, let's take us back really quickly, Jeannie, to think about that time when you wanted to be a singer. When did that come up that you said, "I want to be a singer and a performer"? How
oh,
old were you?
I knew when I was 8 years old what I wanted to do and where I wanted to do it, actually. Of course, I grew up during World War II, earliest memories in Ernest Tubb and listening to the Grand Ole Opry. And so I just knew. I often tell people it wasn't just to perform on that stage that made its impact on me. That sounded like a family, like a close group of
Yeah.
friends that laughed together, sang together, had fun, joked with each other, and I wanted that too. I wanted to be a part of that. So I remember I was in a little school program in third grade. I was 8 years old, and I heard the little bit of applause, and it's like, yeah, now I know for
You were
sure this is
hooked.
what I
Awesome.
want to do.
Yeah, a lot of stars have that vision at a young age, 8 years
Hmm.
old, typically. Um, I wanted to ask you because you come from classic country, right?
Hmm.
So, what's your opinion of how country has evolved? From classic country, which I love, to some of the stuff we're hearing today.
Well, every decade, every generation brings their own styles, their own message in their songs. And I think that country music, maybe more than any other, has always reflected the ordinary life we live.
Uh-huh.
I know that's the way I've always felt. I'm no
Definitely.
different than any other American girl. I just sing and write songs for a living. So I think that it's just natural that it changes. And, a lot of people say, well, it's just not the same. Well, when I got here, it wasn't the same. I mean, I remember getting criticism because I had strings on some of my early records
uh,
instead of fiddle. And with all due respect to Kitty Wells, I didn't want that sound of steel guitar. I wanted Buddy Emmons. So I think every generation brings in their own sound. And if we don't like it, maybe it's not, or maybe we're not in that generation anymore. But
yeah.
there's some incredible new talent out there. I am blown away by some of the young female entertainers and the
Do you have a
songs they're
favorite?
writing. Carly Pierce is very special to me.
Cool.
And I've watched her grow and develop her talent since the early days at Dollywood, and we became friends and actually kind of neighbors here. And I've always been impressed by Carly's work ethic from a young age. And so I like to point her out when I'm talking to people, and young people, especially that want to do this, say, don't be taken away by the lights, the costumes, and the glamour, because there's a lot of hard work behind it,
Yeah.
a lot of tedious hours, and a lot of miles on the road, and gets lonesome out there sometimes too.
Let's talk about work ethic. You talked about how you like certain people with work ethic. Would you say, especially making it, you had to work really hard? 8 years old, you figured out this is what I wanted to do. When did that
Mm.
work ethic come into being? And see, how much do you think that was why you became successful as a singer? Is because of your work ethic?
Well, I think that was really hammered into me and my family, which at the time I fussed, of course, about my chores and all. But looking back, I'm so grateful for that. But yes, at eight, wanting to do it, I started radio in Meadville, Pennsylvania when I was 11. And then I started working with the dance band when I was 13. And in my teenage years, was actually on Sunday nights. I remember we were working like this dinner club, dinner dance, everything club up in Erie. And like every other kid, I left my homework till Sunday night. So I would get up and sing some songs, and then I'd go back in the corner where they had a light set up for me and do homework. And so yeah, I always multitask. And later when I went to work, went to work on a bank when I got out of school, but I was still singing the weekends, so I drug in pretty tired some Monday morning. But the work week went on anyway. So yeah, I'm glad that I had that kind of background, and I still work all the time.
And
But
that's and
but
there's
I
just
love what
something.
I do.
Say, Dave, isn't there something about work?
Of
Once you have that
course.
hard work ethic, it doesn't disappear, does it, Dave?
Idle hands in the devil's workshop. You all come from
Well,
the Bible Belt.
that's yeah. Yeah, my mom quoted that too. And well, and the old saying, find something you love to do, then
That's right.
it's not hard work and it's a
Yes.
passion and it's just my joy. It just simply
Yeah.
is.
Now, Jeannie, back in the 70s, as you know, that the country show Hee Haw really brought a lot of attention to country music and was the cause of a lot of crossovers. Where were you during Hee Haw, and were you pretty supportive of it? I'm sure you were.
I was supportive of it and made several guest appearances on the show. I thought Hee Haw was good in a lot of ways, and also I had some problems with it. I had some issues. I thought that the comedy things, some of the comedy came off as comedy, but I was also afraid at times you're not funny enough. This is looking like you're putting people down. I didn't like that. My other problem was it with it, I didn't think that it represented women in the way I
Mm,
wanted us represented on a regular basis. If you think back,
Right.
it was either the character, the toothless hair and
yeah.
curlers that Ronnie Stoneman played, or to the ditzy blonde, the big bosoms,
And her short
dumb
shorts. Yeah.
honeys, or whatever. You had Roy Clark and Buck Owens, both as straight on country
Yeah.
stars,
Yeah.
but you didn't have a female representative in that way.
And that's
Yeah.
what that's the really thing that about you, Jeannie, is that you represented women, and there were not a ton of country women stars when you were starting out, right? To look up to and say that this is what I want to be. Would you agree?
Right. There were very few before me, and that's why I think I had a lot of influence on the pop singers from the 50s. Remember, there was a show called The Hit Parade in the 50s where we saw Patti Page and um, I can't even think, Teresa Brewer. I remember, loved Teresa Brewer. And a lot of the pop singers is what I tried to emulate them and their presence on stage, and because that's really, like you say, all I had to look up to learn from.
Yeah. Hey, I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes in the music industry. Things just aren't done the same way they were done before. How about some insights about the direction that you see the industry going, and maybe the future?
Well, who knows? I never even dreamed of a time we would have the technology to be doing what we're doing now. I mean, and who knows that technology is changing so fast. I mean,
Mm.
something 2 years ago was out of date now. And of course, with the pandemic, who knew we could change so fast to what we're doing also? So I really have no idea. I'm very technically challenged. If anything, if it goes exactly like planned, I can do it. But if not, I'm hollering at Bev real quick.
Well, I don't know. You got a golden microphone there. That's
Oh,
pretty
yeah, well,
impressive.
that's what I'm used to, But a lot of, like when people will ask me how to for a young artist, and I just have to be honest and say I would have no idea how to start today. The
Yeah, it's
only
totally
thing I
different.
can say that's always consistent is sing wherever you can, talk wherever you can. So you hopefully somebody's listening and
Yeah.
will pay attention. That
Abs-
hasn't changed.
Absolutely. And I think it also has music live on. The new technology allows people to enjoy your music that maybe at times when it was a certain fad and everyone gave up in a certain style of music, say, okay, that's old. We're not only oldies. Now everyone younger are getting to listen to your music. How does that feel?
Oh, I think it's wonderful when I hear some of the people say, "Well, I don't like any of this stuff today," and you can't hear what I really like. Well, I disagree because again, with age of technology, we are so fortunate. We can find and hear and see anything we want any
Yeah.
time of the day or night. So I think things are better than they used to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I wanted to ask you about your writing. You're still writing, yeah?
Yes, I am.
So, are you writing for other artists as well?
Well, I don't usually write for somebody. I just have an idea or a feeling and I write it, and where it
Mhm.
lands, who knows. But the most recent thing was a song that I wrote with Bobby Tomberlin and Aaron Enderlin, a song called Like I Could, that Rhonda
Uh,
Vincent, I just was telling her that I had never done a writing appointment in
uh-huh.
all the years that I had written. And then this was my first one. And I was real happy about the song. She said, "Well, can I hear it?" And so I wasn't even
Yeah.
pitching the song. I was just telling her the story and saying she loved it. So she took it all the way to number one in the bluegrass charts. So
Wow. That's the
very
way to go.
proud of that. Yeah.
Good
And I
job.
got several of them started. And of course, about the time I got brave enough to do a writing appointment, everything closed down. So we
Wow.
can't get together. So I don't know. I
Well,
haven't
there's
tried
still
this.
Zoom.
Yeah, I haven't tried the Zoom writing yet, but Steve Warner's doing it. So if Steve can do it, I can do it.
That's right.
Now, so let's talk a little bit about writing. How do you get your creative juices going to write songs?
Well, it's usually if I get an idea that I know is good, it's different, it's fresh, um, then I get excited about it. I still haven't done the appointment where you just go in and say, okay, what are we going to write about today? I still haven't done one of those. But I'm keeping notes all the time because there again, I'm told that it's okay to go to a writing session without some idea that's just burning in your heart and brain. That
Yeah.
sometimes when you get in that network, that it inspires you to come out with something. So I'm looking forward to the first time for that.
So I'm sure you've done a lot of tours in your career. Do they take a lot out of you? And are you still doing tours? I don't think so, right?
um, well, I was not really tours, but um, anymore I like to run out and do a couple of shows and come home. So, um, but I was out there on the road for a long time, and I loved that life. I really did. I loved that lifestyle and had a lot of fun and made a lot of wonderful friends. But as time went on and goes on, it gets a little bit more difficult to do. And here again today, with the conditions in the world today, there's just way more going on than I feel like I need to deal with that much. If
Yeah.
there's something really fun, it's like I tell people all the time when they'll ask me about doing something, I'll say, whoa, wait a minute. You got to realize I'm not building a career here. I'm just trying to enjoy what's left of this one. And, but there's certain the acts that I love to work with. And I was thrilled to be able to go to Branson and work with Rhonda Vincent on her show up
Ah,
there during the Christmas season. I always loved to go do some shows with Gene Watson, his band. I just love his
Uh-huh.
band, and Mo Bandy is another favorite of mine because we're so kind of different,
Yeah.
and we're all close friends. But
Uh-huh.
those packages work very well, and of course, my dear friend Bill Anderson. I'll be with him wherever and whenever I can.
Do you know Willie Nelson?
Oh,
You
very
worked with
well.
him? Are you on his
Yes,
network or
well,
something? Tell me about that.
he's he did a duet with me on this latest
Oh.
project. And since you're in LA, I will tell you this: when I first met Willie, was when he was recording an album for Liberty Records called And Then I Wrote. And he didn't remember meeting me then because I was just there at the studio helping. I always volunteered to work at the studios, do whatever they needed to do so that I could learn. And but then he remembered me more shortly after that, when one of my jobs at Imperial Record was to rent some offices. So I rented an office to Willie Nelson,
Oh.
and so we met in 63, 64
Wow.
in
What
LA.
is your favorite fondest memory working with Willie? It's knowing it's
Um, oh my goodness, there's so many. I was blessed to be able to open for Willie on his fair dates in
Mm.
81 and 82. Those were just exciting summers. And uh, just being around Willie and that calm that he's always got. It's just always about joy and a good time. There's a, don't bring problems to Willie Nelson's camp. He doesn't want to hear them. But we just had a great time, and um, I was trying to think. I can't really remember right now the last time he and I really actually worked together, but we talk on
Mm.
the phone.
I
And
love
of
Willie.
course, I'm a part of Willie's Roadhouse on Sirius XM, which is a total joy to be a part of that Willie family.
yeah, and tell us
Mm.
a little bit about more about how like being on Sirius and how cool that is, especially to keep this going and be able to be part of country music in that way, being on Willie's Roadhouse.
Well, I was so thrilled when they called me and asked me if I would be interested in doing an air personality shift, because I hadn't really thought about it. And actually, the way I more or less auditioned is kind of interesting, because we do a fundraiser here for Music Health Alliance, which, helps the entertainers negotiate insurance and everything like that we don't really understand most of the time. But anyway, they called me to be a part of a roast for Charlie Monk. And so I was delighted. Charlie and I've been friends for years. And of course, he can really take all the jabbing. So it was just delightful. Well, then, when I went in, certain circumstances going on, Charlie, just without realizing, he was handing me all the ammunition I needed that night to fire back at him. So it went really well, and found out later that the top people with Sirius XM were there that night. I hadn't met any of them,
Oh.
didn't know. And so that's where I really auditioned. They said, well, if she's that quick on her feet on that, then we need her on the air. So I am thrilled. Came up with the idea of Sundays with Seely, and it just kind of
Uh,
caught on. And what I try to do on my show, and here again, this came from a fan. This lady said, I love your show. She said, I love all the guys, but they tell me a lot of stuff that I can Google and find out for myself. And she said about the music, I like hearing what you talk about, how you decorate your house and how you decorate for the holidays, and
Oh,
fun little stories and things people have said to you and that kind of thing. So that's kind of what I focus on mostly, is just more on a personal side. And I came up with another idea to do a phone call to some of my friends, and they like to keep them short, 5, 6 minutes. So everybody will give me at least that much time usually. And so that's kind of the emphasis there, is to find out what's going on in people's life.
Wow.
Fun stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah. If it's not fun, I pretty much don't want to do it anymore.
Well, you look great, and
Well, thank
apparently you
you.
still have a lot of energy to keep doing what you're doing. God bless you. You have a long
Thank you.
life.
I have been very, very fortunate health wise. I think it goes back there again, growing up so far out in the country in rural Pennsylvania. I never learned, we of course didn't have fast food, places, and I never acquired a taste for fast food. I eat pretty healthy, and
That's
I,
good.
I've been always been grateful for that.
So let's talk about how you felt when you won your Grammy. How did that make you feel?
Oh my goodness. First of all, that was only the third Grammy Award for a woman, and only the fourth in country
Really?
Oh,
music,
really?
really.
Wow.
So it was so new. A lot of us really didn't even know. I say us, including me. I was so new to the business. I was still learning what a lot of things were. So
Yeah.
I have to say that it wasn't until later on that I could truly appreciate what the Grammy Award that I was given meant. And to know that that is chosen by your peers, that means so much more. There's
Yeah.
Really
no
does.
Politics.
no no politics, no hype to it. And also that it is not just the song, it is your performance. So that when I fully realized what that stood for, it means more all the time to me. I think my two prized possessions are my Grammy Award and my Opry statue.
Absolutely. I was about to
Yeah.
ask about that. So it felt so good. The Opry statue. Does that mean more than your Grammy? Because again, in country music, that the Grand Ole Opry is like,
Oh,
yeah.
that's like asking me to choose between, people always say between their kids. I didn't have kids. That's like asking me to choose between my pets. They are both just so much a part of my life. They really are. A fun note on the on the Opry statue, for the people who might have watched the show Nashville. Every time Marina
Yes.
James or any of them got a Grammy, an Opry induction on that show, it was my statue they saw
Wow.
because I
Really?
live so close, Of course, those are made up. At just they're not made up ahead of time. They're made for somebody. So I remember Pete Fisher, the manager, called me and he said, um, could we borrow your Opry statue, for a scene? And I'm like, no, I can't let you do that, Mr. Fisher. And he's like, we will take really good care of, I'll come and get it personally and I'll bring it back. And I said, sure, but there's a rental fee for it. I can't just loan that out. So it
So
it was a lot of fun.
so you're in great company. The third woman to ever get an opera. Who are the other two? Just out of curiosity.
Well, in country music, the first year they did just a country record, and Bobby Bear won that in 1963 for Detroit City. And then the next year in 64, they gave a male and a female. And my friend Dottie West won female for Here Comes My Baby. And 65, Jody Miller won it for Queen of the House, her answer to Roger Miller's King of the Road. And then I won it in 66.
You're in
So
good
we're
company.
talking. So you definitely,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah. I've
Now,
been very blessed. I think that I love the era that I've been allowed
Yeah,
to
me
live
too.
in. It's just been a very special thing to get to know these heroes and call them friends.
Were you able to work with Marty Robbins?
Yes, in fact, there's a video shows up every now and then on YouTube where Dottie West and I were on with Marty together, and that was
Legend.
kind of fun. Yes, and of course at the Opry with Marty. And also I got to ride in the pace car for something out at the Nashville Speedway when he was racing too.
Now, it's also interesting, Jeannie, you took some time off and then went back in the 90s. What made you the love of music come back, right? The 90s where you made the your next run. What made
Yeah,
you
I think a lot of that had to do with I was living out in the country, and all of a sudden I realized that I wasn't participating in so many things industry wise. And you have to network in this business. I thought, well, I guess any business networking is very important. But I realized that I just wasn't involved in everything because I didn't like that long drive out into the country by myself late at night, and things were changing. It wasn't as safe to do as it was the years before. And so I'd stopped doing that. So anyway, that's when I ended up leaving the farm and moving into this little cottage on the Cumberland and getting back involved with everything. And of course, when I bought this little cottage, we had Opryland Park, the Gaslight Theater, TNN Studios, the Riverboat Taxis, the General Jackson Showboat. I was right in the middle of all of it and did everything there was to do. I miss all that.
Are they not around anymore, or just because of COVID?
Well, they closed the park,
Hmm.
and which was a devastating thing to all of us in the industry and to our town, really.
How about the water
It was
taxi?
it was a terrible mistake, I think, because we literally sent our kids back to the street, and we took away a lot of first-time jobs, not only in the music, people like Dean Dillon, was singing in shows out there in the park and developing their talents, but also the other kids that got work experience in all the little shops and the rides and those kind of things. So it was very rough to do that. We still have the General Jackson Showboat, and that's always a delight when people come. I like to make sure they know about that and enjoy that.
Is the park still there? Or they built something on it.
They built a shopping mall.
Of course.
it's always
They
about
did the same
$50?
thing in Honolulu. It's terrible.
Yeah, I haven't been there in a long time.
So
That's understand.
before we get to Dave's question, latest project would you say is the Roadhouse? What else do you want to promote right now?
Well, of course, I'm still promoting my album that we released this past August because, and we probably will work on that longer than maybe normal. But with the pandemic and the shutdown, we were limited on how we could promote an album. And that's the first time when you think about it. I've been on a major label since the 70s. So I've been recording all this time, but not on a major label. So I'm very proud to be sharing Curb. And Mike Curb has been a wonderful man for our industry, and I was so glad he was interested in my project. So we are still working on that. We're going to start pushing a second single. The first one was the duet with Willie Nelson called "There's Not a Dry Eye in the House." And I loved what someone described. Actually, Dallas Wayne, the songwriter on that, said, "I love the interpretation you did," because he said it sounds like a conversation between two old friends. And of course, that's what
That's the
Willie and
most
I
important
are.
thing.
So I think,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I said that's the most important thing, that chemistry. That makes a great
Yes.
song.
Yeah.
I think so. And I think
I'm gonna look that up.
that feeling comes across to the listener, I think, too. So we're probably going to focus a push maybe on a up-tempo swing song that I recorded that I think right now the title is pretty fitting. It says "So Far So Good."
All right. Okay. So Dave's last question, final question, Jeannie, is involving caregiving. I call him Caregiver Dave Nasani because he's a caregiver, and he does great message all over the world about caregiving. So Dave, go ahead and ask the question to Jeannie.
You know, Jeannie, my wife had a headache about 21 years ago. She was only 52, and it turned into a stroke. She lost her speech, became paralyzed on one side. And in that moment, our world turned upside down. And it was at that time, after a couple of year grieving period, where we almost broke up. You know, she was angry and bitter most of the time because she couldn't talk. She still can't talk, but she can communicate non-verbally, you know, through Pictionary, charades, a couple of games I'm still getting used to because I suck at. And she's in a power wheelchair. So we managed to travel all over the world now because she's got a great attitude and people look up to her and they're inspired by her because she does more than most normal people can. And I like to say, since 30% of caregivers actually die because of their stress in their life before their loved ones do, anyone can become a caregiver just like that. They're either going to become a caregiver or need a caregiver. And so I start this website, caregiverdave.com, to help out. I travel the country, been on TV, spoke at Harvard and NASDAQ and Carnegie Hall. And my question to you is, how has caregiving touched your life?
Well, like you said, you can become a caregiver in an instant. And 3 years ago, that happened with me, with my husband. We had gone to the opening of Ray Stevens' new cabaret. Everything was going fine. 2 days later, he was in so much pain. We couldn't figure out what was going on. Took him to ER and they had to do emergency surgery. And you've seen some of the lawsuits about the mesh that's given people problem.
Right.
And that's what happened to him.
Mm.
So he had emergency surgery, spent 33 days in
Oh
intensive
my.
care, 5 months in rehab so he could learn to, when he went to rehab, he could not sit up, he couldn't turn over, nothing by himself. And today he walks on those elbow crutches,
Oh,
and has a brace on his foot, but he is amazing. And like you said about your wife, that spirit never changes
yeah,
regardless of the physical things. And I can understand what you're saying about your wife too, because my husband dealt with that with his former wife. She had a stroke and could not speak, and he
uh,
was about the only one who could understand her. So yes, caregiver is a tough job, but it's a very rewarding job to know that you can make such a difference in someone's life
sure.
by little things. Now, that doesn't mean we don't sputter quite a bit, because we do, because somehow I don't ever do things the way he does. I think our
Sure.
major thing, Dave, is how difficult it is for me to steer while he drives from the other seat.
But I think it's amazing. The fact is that what you do for your husband and how your service for your husband, it's such a great thing to be
Yeah.
to help him and care for him.
How was the toll on you as a caregiver? I mean, did it burn you out? How did you handle all of that?
Well, I am very fortunate that I've had, a lot of help. He's got 3 grown boys who have been
Ah,
just absolutely
that's a big
wonderful,
help. Yeah,
but they all have their own jobs and their
sure.
own lives. So, and I'm also blessed to have close neighbors. I mean, it's just, if he falls, I touch a button on my phone and they're here right then. So I'm very fortunate to have the
Yeah,
help, but I think loss of sleep in the beginning was one of the hardest things, and then trying to keep my life and my career going. And I'm fortunate here too, because my husband Gene wanted that too. He hasn't wanted me to stop what I'm doing, so we work at it together as best we can. You mentioned touring and work traveling, and that's harder now
yeah.
because of packing for two is harder. He's a big man, his clothes weigh a lot more, and I'm handling the luggage, so that makes it more difficult. But
Um,
yeah, the rewards are there, Dave, and my hat is off to you, because it can be trying at times, but I think stopping and taking a deep breath every now and then is it helps.
Yes. God bless you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Jeannie, thanks again for stopping by. Where's the best place people can find information on you? Website?
JeannieSeely.com is my website, or I've got 2 places on Facebook, Twitter. Am I on Instagram? You have to look at Bev. Yeah, on Instagram.
And you
But
said you were technical, not savvy, huh?
yeah. Also, you know, a lot of people in my age still like to write a note, and I still enjoy getting a handwritten note, and especially like cards. A lot of my fans like to send cards. And a lot of times when I'm filling my CD orders, or I'll started bringing home the program from the Grand Ole Opry, and I'll slip that in with an order or something, just for something special, and because the people enjoy it. So people can always still write to me in care of the Jeannie Seely, in care of the Grand Ole Opry, Nashville, Tennessee. They know where we are.
That's a good address.
You're
Right.
fabulous. Let's hope you can get back to performing live someday soon. Let's hope for you. Like
I will
Bev
be
and I were
there
looking
on Sat. They've had me opening the Opry on Saturday nights pretty regularly here lately.
Good.
So um, I'm, you know, that's just, I'm never more at home any place than I am on that Opry stage. It's a thrill. It's a joy every time I walk out there. So I'm
Well, you
glad I
look like
get
you're
to
in good
do
health, and that's a blessing.
we walk, and we've got those 3-wheel bicycles. They laugh and point at us, and we wave back and laugh back. They don't know what we're laughing at.
Well, thanks again, Jeannie. I appreciate the time, and
Thank you.
and God bless
Thank
you and your family. And thank you again for telling such an amazing story and really give us
Yeah.
inspiration. and
thank
story.
you.
It's a great interview. Thank you.
Thanks.
We appreciate you including us, and take care, you guys. Stay well and keep doing what you're doing, Dave. God bless you.
Thank you. You
All right.
too.
Dave's such a great service, and same with you, Jeannie. Take care, guys. All right,
Thanks.
that's Caregiver Dave Celebrity segment. Take care.